In the 1960s, geologists probed the Queensland outback looking for oil. 150 kilometres south of Mount Isa, they found instead a vast deposit of phosphate rock, the residue of a sea that had covered the area millions of years ago. Broken Hill South began exploiting the deposit, mining the rock and railing it to the coast for shipment to overseas fertilizer manufacturers who turned it into superphosphate. But the Phosphate Hill project proved unviable, and the mine and the township of the Monument shut down. When WMC acquired the lease, they took a radically different approach. They recognised the Phosphate Hill deposit provided the potential to meet Australia's domestic fertiliser needs for decades into the future, and to launch a new export market. WMC's engineers developed the concept of a viable new ammonium phosphate fertiliser industry in northwest Queensland, pulling together the region's resources. Sulphur gas emissions at the Mount Isa copper smelter could be turned into sulphuric acid to be railed to the main facility at Phosphate Hill. A spur from the Carpentaria pipeline, delivering natural gas to the Mica Creek power station, could provide the feedstock for ammonia production. At Phosphate Hill, the sulphuric acid could be reacted with the phosphate rock, which could then be combined with ammonia to make ammonium phosphate fertilizer. But it meant constructing a sophisticated major chemical plant in the remoteness of the Queensland outback, utilising the best technology available in the world. That meant undertaking a global search, evaluating the technologies of potential suppliers, their reputation and previous experience. The remoteness of the site and the unique conditions of the Australian outback placed another requirement on these international contractors.
The contractors you use not only have a quality product, and we're talking here of overseas contractors providing technology, you then have to get them lined up with an Australian contractor who will actually build the plant, deliver the end product, and then we have to assemble our own team of highest caliber people in order to deliver that final end product.
It's all too common in the mining industry for projects to run into problems in their relations with local Indigenous communities. WMC was determined this would not happen at Phosphate Hill. They instituted a program of consultation and participation with the communities that worked extremely well for everyone.
We've had wonderful cooperation from the local Aboriginal communities. They were involved in clearing the land. As you know, you have to carry out a cultural heritage clearance to make sure that none of the activities go near or impinge on any archaeological sites, and they don't damage any artefacts that may be found out there. So we had a lot of cooperation and really a lot of fun in doing that clearance.
One of the first stages on site at Phosphate Hill was the development of a project camp. The team already had a facilities base on which to build. The former mining operation had left behind a small accommodation village, dirt airstrip, roads and rail link. WMC determined that theirs would be a camp with a difference, one of the best seen in the mining and construction industries. Air-conditioned accommodation quarters, prefabricated in Townsville, were trucked into Phosphate Hill for assembly, while other crews constructed the dining and administration blocks and recreational facilities.
I think the camp is absolutely vital. You've got to get the right culture from day one. You've got to know that you look after people, that the food is good, the bed's clean, and that everybody plays by the rules. We've established the ground rules right from day one, and I think that culture extends right through the whole project duration.
By the end of 1997, all planning and preparations for the $800 million project were completed, and it was time for site work to begin in earnest. The crews waited until the end of the wet season and then moved in.
We put in the road in March '98, and then the airstrip, and then all of a sudden there was something like 200 odd people doing all the earthworks. And the site looks enormously big when people do earthworks. There's a lot of machinery happening, going around, a lot of activity. And it's very interesting on chemical construction sites. The sites start off big, and then as you put more and more equipment onto it, the site actually gets smaller. Your perception of it gets smaller. September 98 is, I guess, is when we in effect mobilized the workforce per se. That's when the contractors started, the lump sum turnkey contractors that John's referred to, the ones that provided all the technology. They effectively mobilized. We had Lindy mobilizing on the ammonia plant. We had a consortium of MAC, which was Mitsui, ABB and Clough, mobilizing on the phosphoric acid plant, and Fleur Daniel on the granulation plant. So those were the major contractors that started bringing the workforce into the field.
Yeah, Mitsui ABB Clough, in fact, was a Japanese designer using Norwegian technology. So with two Australian contractors who brought complementary skills and expertise. And that was the case across all of our contractors. There was a lot of complementary skills brought there, but always with a base of good old Aussie know-how, and they were the people who hired the people on the ground.
Because of its sheer size and complexity, the Phosphate Hill component of the project has dominated most people's thinking. Yet it was only one of 3 sites. In Townsville, crews were building a huge bulk storage and handling facility by the port's bulk shipping terminal. Initially, the land had to be reclaimed, and then work began on the storage and handling complex. A huge structure with massive spanning beams, the building puts an area greater than 3 football fields under roof, providing a storage capacity of 90,000 tonnes of bulk fertilizer. In Mount Isa, the largest acid plant of its type in the world was being constructed beside the town's copper smelter. It would convert around 80% of the smelter's sulfur gas emissions into more than 1 million tonnes a year of sulfuric acid, to be railed in special Gatex wagons to Phosphate Hill. The process would also result in cleaner air for the people of Mount Isa. The Mount Isa plant was designed to incorporate not only the most advanced technologies, but it had to meet exacting environmental and safety requirements. Site work began only after exhaustive environmental surveys and community consultation. With up to 600 working on site, crews in Mount Isa were housed in motel and hostel-style accommodation and enjoyed the added advantage of access to established recreational facilities in a major inland city. But Mount Isa presented its own unique set of difficulties for the crews.
Yeah, there's particular difficulty with Mount Isa too. We're actually on MIM's mining lease. It's the only acid plant in the world that's attached to someone else's smelter, and people who've worked in operations will understand the complexities of working with another mining company up close and personal, as it were. And to the great credit of the staff on both sides of the fence there, things work terribly well. It's a great success for both companies.
The distance of the inland sites from the coast, particularly Phosphate Hill, posed other challenges for the team. Many critical components had to be carried in from southern capitals or from overseas, travelling long distances over outback roads.
I'm always amazed that we didn't lose anything. You know, when I look at the ports where these things came from, and somehow they all arrived in Townsville or in Brisbane, and they jumped on a truck and they were in our site.
Yeah, they were dirt roads to the site. We have rainy seasons up there, of course. Everything got there on time. That's a credit to all the people involved, and there's a lot of private trucking contractors who are in there assisting with all that.
Every phase of construction at all 3 sites had to be completed within rigid time and cost schedules imposed by the project management team. And often the work had to be carried out under the most trying conditions. Still, the first trainload of product pulled out of Phosphate Hill and the first shipment left Townsville's wharves on schedule.
I think the workforce can be very proud of the job they did, and it's not just the quality, but it's also the circumstances they put up with. That's a very remote site. It gets very hot in summer, and there were people there putting in 10.5-hour days, welding in the open, and a lot of other difficult jobs. I think that the workforce can be extremely proud of the end result.
Frankly, I don't know how they did it sometimes, John. The day I got off there was 48 degrees, it was the first day I got back onto site. And I used to watch the workforce out there, and they just went on about their business very professionally. A real credit to them.
And somehow they've found the energy after work to make use of the camp recreational facilities or to contribute to camp life.
Okay, this is Monument FM, the voice of the Queensland Fertilizer project. Hey, down out there, Phosphate Hill. Hey, Kimbo, we're all packing our bongos, talking about heading home. What's it been like, mate?
I know, Mister. It's time to go home. It's been good, though, and using the old cliche, we love it up here.
Yeah, top place to be. Anyway, one man who's made that enjoyable has been Jimmy Gillen. Jim, this song goes out to you. Why do you pick on me?
Outback heat and flies may have been constant companions during the long summers, but the project was never bogged down by heavy wet seasons. The rain was always well behaved.
Yeah, we used to call it boss's rain because it rained on people's days off. So we were pretty lucky, but you know, you plan around it. We were ready for the rain.
No matter what was happening, crews and their families were kept fully informed.
Well, I think the first thing is that we made actually people feel part of the project. I think John and I, we signed 9,000 postcards which we sent to the families, so that the families were in touch with what their husbands or their partners were doing out on the project. That was a very important thing. And then we put out a magazine which basically showed what the workforce was doing on the project, which we sent to all the families in that. And we set up an internet system, and very early on in the piece we established a mobile phone system out in this remote location. So we made sure that the families were always connected in with the project, so that people didn't feel isolated in what was a very isolated site.
It's easy to sell a good project. This is a very good project, and we tried to explain that to people, that it's worthwhile. We're taking a resource which was sitting in the ground, wasn't going to go anywhere, it proven to be uneconomic in the past. We're turning it into Aussie-made fertiliser and working out there. Let's face it, everybody likes money, but at the end of the day, it's probably not the main motivator. If you think that you're doing good jobs, that your input's appreciated, and that at the end of the day you're going to leave a great project, and we hope this video will show it's a great project, we think that was pretty important.
On site, all achievements were recognised, including the project's amazing safety record and the awards given out as a result. And at Phosphate Hill in particular, everything was seen as an excuse for a barbecue.
This project will probably be remembered as the one having the most barbecues. I think that a large part of the culture arose around barbecues, informal barbecues and barbecues to celebrate all sorts of achievements.
The project also may be remembered for the characters in the teams who brought that unique Aussie sense of humour to the daily grind on site.
There's something about the Australian construction workforce that has that very dry, sarcastic sense of humour, always a sense of fun. And the staff too. I mean, there are people there that I've met that have impressed me enormously in professional skills, so there's a whole range of wonderful people.
That applies equally to the people behind the scenes, like the P&O crews, who ensured everyone on site was well fed and cared for during their stay.
I first came here almost 2.5 years ago, when there was nothing here, and I mean, it was just a paddock. And then to see this project go from, you know, conception, the design, grade the paddock, pour the foundations, build the plant up as it was designed, go through the commissioning, and then finally, you know, now seeing a great quality product come out. I mean, it's just been fantastic. You know, the contributions that all the different people have made along the way have made a pretty special experience for me. I mean, a lot of them had to leave their families and things like that and come out and work out here, and the camaraderie was fantastic. And that showed in their work effort as well. I mean, the quality of workmanship's been great.
Many people not directly associated with the WMC teams benefited from the project. For example, Dejara, the former cattle railhead and the nearest township to Phosphate Hill. The town and its youngsters benefited from the program of community involvement in which all team members participated.
From the beginning, we were very conscious of the community, and we spent a lot of time talking to people. All of our workforce helped. For instance, the profits of the bar, which went to the workforce by way of a club, was distributed locally. There was $42,000 given to people like the Royal Flying Doctor Service. We've donated computers and things to local kids in the schools. So we engaged with the local community right from the beginning, explaining what we're doing, why we're doing it, and getting the feedback.
September 1998 was a milestone for the project. That was when the VIPs and the media descended on Phosphate Hill for the project's official launch. During the day, the Queensland Premier Peter Beattie and WMC Chairman Hugh Morgan unveiled a plaque marking the occasion and took a turn around the site, meeting a few of the workers. Everyone who was a member of the Townsville, Mount Isa and Phosphate Hill teams on and off site can share in an enormous sense of achievement. As the project has gone from breaking ground through construction, commissioning and finally full production, thousands of people have made their contribution. They've taken part in a project that will go down in the Australian history books and will alter the face of the agricultural industries in this nation for decades to come. The pride voiced by the project management team only echoes that rightly felt by every team member.
I first went into the site 4 years ago, towards the end of '96, and it was interesting. The place had been closed up for 16 to 17 years. The office was closed. We went in there, it hadn't been open for all those years. The mine manager's hat was sitting on the desk with a folded newspaper, local newspaper underneath it, says Phosphate Hill will close. Well, I guess when he left it, he put it there deliberately for someone else to come in and find it. And so it's a big event for us to sort of be able to fold this newspaper out now and say Phosphate Hill is reopened. I think that the thing we'd be proud of here is making the project work by adding value. I've been in the mining construction industry for 35 years. I've watched Australia export raw materials. This is going to be one of the ones that people talk about and they say we added value, we added expertise, and we made the project work. And that's the thing that I'll always be proud of, and proud of for the job that the people have done.
I guess I feel good about the project, but through different people. For me, it's a great sense of pride when my kids take this to school and say, my dad built this. And it's not me individually, but that's the way the kids react. I mean, it takes a lot of people to put a project together like that. And I'm sure all of the people on the site, I'm sure the kids are doing exactly the same. And for me, that is a great sense of achievement.